Grease. How many of us have it? Grease. It's all on my face. Grease. It's shining off the top of the forehead. Grease. Before I start my recording, let's rub grease. Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly being produced 12 hours behind schedule. Wow. But it would be fantastic if you were to hit the like button and to subscribe. That sort of support really shows that you care about building the community up and getting more voices out there. So anyway, the patch is out. Hey. With a lengthy epilogue that surprised a lot of us, I think, and cross-faction stuff, which has predictably been kind of a mixed bag. Like, for every remiss from Fizzcrank who exercised their right to be unlikable, a lot of folks have come out to say that their experiences have been mostly pleasant, which is, I guess, statistically safe. People tend to have more good group experiences than really bad ones, otherwise it all come to a screeching halt. Cross-faction might not affect me or my raid team at all, but I think this is a good time to listen. Like, how has cross-faction grouping in instances affected you so far, if at all? Is the sky falling? Is there an interfaction orgy going on behind you right now? Or in front of you? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Not the orgy stuff, but you know what I mean. Some really big news dropped over the weekend, and that news came in the form of talent trees. Check the link below. There's a preview or prototype of the Dragonflight talent tree featuring Death Knights and Druids for all their specializations. Now, I'm hoping that real soon the community or sites like Wowhead, hey, will produce their own interactive talent calculator sort of doohickey to give us the more tactile experience of, clicking on talent per level. But here are some highlights. First, Mark of the Wild is coming back as a raid buff. Yay, I think, giving crit strike and reducing magic damage taken. Now, it makes me wonder if this is going to stack with Paladin's Devotion Aura, which reduces all damage by 3%, or will Devotion Aura maybe be nerfed to only reduce physical damage so that Druids could cover magic damage, or does the crit strike buff ease that worry, or why are we still having raid buffs? Should we have them? Should we not? Also, at least concerning Druids and Death Knights, Necrolord Covenant abilities are available for every spec. However, that does not mean that they're baseline abilities. So for Death Knights, Abomination Limb is now going to be available as long as they spec for it at the very bottom of their class side of the tree. For Druids, Adaptive Swarm is available as long as they spec for it towards the bottom of their spec side of the tree. Kind of a difference there. By the way, Convoke the Spirits is still on the spec trees as well. I want to add that in there. But anyway, I do like the distinction that's there by acknowledging Abomination Limb as a more utility first ability. I guess Adaptive Swarm technically is not. Now, some talents here have been confusing people who feel like utility abilities like interrupts should be more like gimmies than choices that are put onto a talent tree. Like, it's as if it's wasting a point. Imagine though, let's just get to the good part, okay? Imagine though, knowing that Slappy Hands will follow us past Shadowlands. Adaptive Swarm jumps, not as popular, but it's going to be a very normal thing. Like, I bet you that we're going to hear regular complaints of swarms jumping around too much in busy towns and cities because every druid in the area can basically pass the fart around. I'd like to hear your thoughts so far on the return of talent trees, though. I trust that almost none of us are developers, so we're not going to agree on much of anything here. So I'm coming at this with the energy of someone who wants to listen and not talk down or not even really debate about it. I just want to hear from you. Because personally, I think that this first round of talents, it feels thoughtful. It respects the growth of leveling, which I think is super important. Like, really, take a look at it and then cover up the stuff on the bottom and then try to count your level so you can get a better context of what's going on. But when we get down there, it's going to be super cool to have both Adaptive Swarm running while slamming a Convoke the Spirits. Trust me when I say that when the Paladin tree is up for a preview, I'm going to live in that tree. I'm going to be on stream doing whatever. I'm going to be demoing builds, whether someone's made a calculator or not. And on top of that, if Divine Toll is not in the talent trees at all, I'm going to start some shit. Moving on to the patch. This patch is, well, I'm going to be honest, it's very content light. Today, I'm still going to sing its praises though, and I'm going to drag it out over the course of many days, maybe weeks, as I talk about the future of Warcraft. Now, next week, content-wise, it's going to be business as usual, but that's why today I want to celebrate just how much I enjoyed the epilogues and the breadcrumbs left that leave me pretty excited for Dragonflight and, again, the future of WoW. The World of Warcraft team, despite the data mining and the leaks, they did manage to leave some very pleasant surprises, which I will shortly ruin, by the way. So I'm going to talk up some spoilers. I'm just not going to get into every gritty detail here, okay? So there's some small mysteries behind the likes of Khadgar and Venari. Not related, but, you know, just lumping them together. Like, Khadgar's visiting the Shadowlands for, I don't know, who knows what. After such a long absence, it's hard to see him resurfacing as anything short of significant, or maybe it's a bit sus, or maybe he's a dreadlord. Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, Venari's disappeared, left as an echo in the maw, found in Zereth Mortis, but apparently dead, unless you're an engineer, the best profession in WoW ever. So those give hints, hopefully long-term hints, as to the future of what's going on, what's being put onto the shelf for possibly later. The end of Shadowlands also means the end of death as a mysterious thing in this Warcraft universe. The Shadowlands now, it's just a place. Patch 925 questlines have us jump between Azeroth, well, actually the whole damn expansion did, but 925 especially, it has us jump between Azeroth and the Shadowlands to empower stuff, or to get information. Like, it's as if the Shadowlands is another country, or a planet, or a plane of existence, or it's a timeline. Okay, like, nothing's precious. We could just do anything that we want, or go anywhere that we want, or anywhere, or any when, whatever. As a real human, you gotta understand, as a real human living in this universe that is full of mysteries, it's sort of unnerving to participate in a video game world where those mysteries are more than just solved. We have its architects being farmed for loot. There are also some letdowns though, and I'd like to hear your take on these too. Like, there's no mention of Bane or Thrall in patch 925. I mean, maybe we'll hear from them a little bit later, but I think for now they've just had enough and they just jetted home the first chance that they got. Bolvar, unfortunately, didn't live up to the expectations, not nearly so much, especially as one who got to be on the key art. Maybe that's just one of many symptoms of the whole work from home situation and the development woes that the WoW team experienced early on with Shadowlands content. The question now though, now that we're past all of that, the question is now, where will Bolvar go? Or will his daughter Talia follow him? Or will he follow her? Tronda's epilogue is also a mixed bag for me, but at least it's also, again, one of those scenes that's really difficult to understand given its very fictional nature. I mean, okay, she receives a new MacGuffin that seems like it's going to help her restore Teldrassil, or to even build a new home, like a tree or under tree. An under tree. Wow, great word, Soul. But it seems like it's powered by the anima of volunteers who chose to not stay in Ardenweald, while someone like Ysera is going to stay. Now, I read that some people are dissatisfied with this development, and I don't blame them, and yet, if you underwent a personal tragedy, and you lost a loved one, and that loved one found a way, somehow, some way, to give back to you, to help you heal through their own second sacrifice, that's crazy. Like, think about that. And like the video and subscribe to the channel. My personal ship of Anduin and Sylvanas has unfortunately come to an end, as he had one last goodbye to share with her. I think I like how he's grown, but he also did go through the unique trauma of being dominated, and now he's coming out of this having abandoned that overly righteous attitude that he had at the start of this expansion, and it was very apparent in the Sylvanas book, which I know is from Sylvanas' perspective. Anduin's going to return to Azeroth soon, I think, to his kingdom and a faction that is not at war. So my hope is that as a whole, the Horde and Alliance governments, they're gonna just kind of spend time mending wounds and making more babies to turn into young dead soldiers in the next big conflict. I can and I can't see him abandoning his duties, especially when he can spend some time as a king that is not at war. Probably my favorite ending though is the one that ends on the most hopeful note, and that's the return to Lordaeron. Never mind that it's Horde biased, or that you might not like Kalia, or that the Forsaken don't deserve anything after what they did. Like, I mean, come on, it's been almost 3 years since the end of the Fourth War, come on. I'm not gonna get into all the details if you haven't played through it yet, so spoiler alerts again, because it was just a fun experience that had me feeling pretty good when I was done, so I'm not gonna have any extra B-roll here, it's just you and me for the next couple of minutes, alright? And by the way, play this thing as a max level hunter. I did not, my bad. So this thing's got a bunch of notable characters. It's got it's got this over-the-topness with a vibe that you usually get more from like Goblin quests. Like, how do you kill a plague? Because that's the gist of it. Let's kill the plague, stab it, and save Lordaeron. It's utterly ridiculous. And the Aftermath also ended up being one of the best payoffs that I honestly did not expect. It just kind of left my realm of imagination, and that was the recreation of the Desolate Council, which was basically built up and then dissolved and kind of killed off before the Fourth War began a couple of years ago. Fans have been super mixed as to what's going to happen with the Forsaken leadership after the Fourth War had ended. I mean, there was controversy surrounding Kalia as like this savior, this usurper, this pretender, or all of it. And of course, what about Lillian Voss? She's been around for a while. What is she, chopped liver? Somehow the answer of creating a council to represent all these different viewpoints, not just them, but others, it totally eluded me. I was surprised, and so I got this rush of excitement by the end of the quest and this cinematic thing. We got this hopeful ending that looks toward the future. And I learned later that the Alliance version of this questline includes details that might leave Gilneas free for its people to retake their own lands. So let me put this into some context. Like, think back to a few years ago. I mean, it feels like forever now, but a few years ago, Azeroth breathed a sigh of relief after the unbelievable defeat of Sargeras, only to have just a 0.5 patch later, it starts to lead us straight to war. And with an expansion reveal that strongly hinted that we would see some of the darkest moments of our faction leaders. And then a couple years later, big old anime laser kills the tentacle demon, okay, but before that, a villain zips off like, haha, you're all a nothing, I'll be back to kidnap your greatest heroes and Bane too. And it was shortly followed by a cinematic that proves her right. I can say the same for Warlords and Miss Pandaria as well, where we get a somewhat satisfying ending, but with the promise of something big and nasty on the horizon. But Shadowlands' ending has proven itself to try to be, a little bit different. It's like what Tyrande had finally discovered by the end of her journey in the Shadowlands. She found hope. Azeroth is going to be reintroduced to a long-lost land. Again. But it's the same wonder as with Miss Pandaria. It's an invitation to adventure. And for our embattled factions and nearly broken world, it seems like some healing is in order. And I'm excited to see what's next. So how does someone get that sort of vibe from a few cinematics? It's coffee. It's a lot of coffee. And that's the show. And Anduin's dead.
Defensive for the next Hullbreaker.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh.
GG,
Congratulations, everybody.
We're AOTC Anduin.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
I'm glad I could help you guys with that.
I'm watching the cinematic, shush. This feels like the end of the raid to me. He's dead, and I couldn't be happier. But now my team is in a weird spot of using our second night of raiding, not our first, but our second night of raiding to farm up old bosses, and then using our first night to extend the raid from the other week, and then work on progression. I'm not too happy about that, but at least we're not on Anduin anymore, and it's nice to just progress on a different boss. Dude, taunt, stupid.
Defensive.
I had it.
No, I'm talking to myself. My bad.
He's just so used to you being the stupid one.
Jesus Christ.
I think I just realized that I abused my guilties.
Defensive.
Just realizing that?
Yeah. Abusers tend to not realize those sorts of things.
Yeah. And then everyone else here has Stockholm Syndrome. Jesus.
So progression is constant in our guild. Okay, like that's a problem for another week. So for now, let's thank all of the wonderful folks who've been supporting this channel. Like the Twitch folks who've been watching me slam some Diablo Immortal. Thank you for coming by and subbing to the stream. To our very wonderful, wonderful patrons and their generous pledges, including newcomers Peter and Thomas. Thank you. And to you, viewer, to making it to the end. I have too few words other than to say, I'm emotionally exhausted over one tragedy after another, so the best that I can manage for now is to say that I hear you, and I hope that I brought just a tiny bit of positive energy into your life today. Happy Pride Month to all of our friends, our family, and our loved ones, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.